in Leviticus. Sorry, I'll start again. On Pesach, we read the portion of the festivals in Leviticus. On Shavuos, we read the portion of 7 weeks. Rosh Hashanah, we read the portion in the 7th month on the first day. On Yom Kippur, we read the portion of after the death. And on the first day of the festival, we read the portion of the festivals in Leviticus. And on all the remaining days of the festival, we read the portion of the sacrifices of the festival. On the 8th day of Hanukkah, we read the portion of the princes. On Purim, we read the portion of an Amalekam. On Rosh Chodesh, we read the portion of on your new moons. And on Masmados, we read the portion of the creation. On public fast, we read the portion of the blessing and curses. We may not interrupt the reading of the curses. Therefore, one person reads them in their entirety. On Monday, Thursdays, and at Mincha on the Sabbath, we read the regular portion of regular order of portions, but this reading is not taken into account. And as it is said, and Moses declared the appointed seasons of Hashem to the children of Israel. The precept is that each person should be read at the appropriate time. Each portion should be read at the appropriate time. One who reads the Megillah may stand or sit. Whether one person reads it or two people read it, they have fulfilled their obligation. Where are they accustomed to recite a blessing? Afterward, one should recite the blessing. Where the custom is not to recite a blessing, one need not recite the blessing. On Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos afternoon, 3 people read the Torah. We may not decrease them nor add to them, and we do not declude the reading with a section from the prophets. The one who commences and the one who concludes the reading of the Torah, respectively, recite the blessing.
Wait. This is mine. You're already in Mishna base. I was like caught in a train of thought earlier when I was in Mishnah Aleph.
I'm in Dalet.
Mishnah base is new for today.
Oh, I was.
Right. So
I was finishing Dalet Aleph. That's what I was finishing. Okay.
Oh, you're finishing it. Sorry, I thought that was. Oh.
The one who commences and who concludes the reading of the Torah, respectively, recites the blessings said before it and after it. Okay. Now
because that phrase is also in Mishnah base. That's what threw me. Okay, fine. Sorry, confusion. Okay. On Rosh Chodesh and Chol HaMoed, Rosh Chodesh Korin Arba, we call 4 people up to the Torah. Ein pochasin mehen ve'ein mosifin aleim, no more, no less. Ve'ein maftirin b'navi, and there's no maftir. No maftir haftarah. Haposech v'achosem b'Torah. The people who open and the people who finish reading the Torah, mevarich lefanei u'la'acharei. So again, this is talking about the original practice of where only the Kohen says the first bracha and the Achron reads the last bracha and nobody else in between. So, which of course is not the halacha, but the Mishnah mentions it over here that just in case you thought that since we have there are 4, you might want to make a bracha after the third one. It's only after the 4th one here. Okay. Okay, sorry. So that's Zerkal. Your general rule is Kol sheyesh bo musaf ve'eno yom tov korin arba'a. So if you've got musaf but it's not yom tov, then you're reading 4. Okay. B'yom tov chamisha. But on Yom Tov we have 5 people reading. B'yom HaKippurim shisha, 6 on Yom Kippur. B'Shabbos shiva, and 7 on Shabbos. And pochasin mehen aval mosifin aleihin. You cannot have less than that number of aliyahs, but you're allowed to add more. So any Yom Tov you're allowed to add more olim. Maftirin b'navi. And we do have a concluding chapter. We have a concluding reading in Navi. The Posech v'chosem b'Torah mevarech lefanei u'la'achareha. And once again, only the Rishon and the Achron the Rishon makes a bracha before, the Achron makes a bracha afterwards, which is not the halacha as we know. Okay, ein porsin al shma. Okay, now this we're opening up with a very confusing statement because ein porsin al shma. We don't know what the word portion really means, and there are lots of different mafarshim who are arguing about it. Let's just give you we've got a laundry list in this Mishnah of a number of different things, and at the end, we've got to know what we're talking about in order to have the context in place, that we're not just sort of suspended. What are we talking about? Things that have to be done with a minion. Okay. Everything that we say over here are things that have to be said in a minion. There's the whole. By the way, the Indian of a minion is learned from the regalim in Pasha. right?
Right.
Because we've got because the pasuk says it refers to ha'eda hara'azeh, this evil congregation. So who's the evil congregation? It's 12 spies minus Yeshua and Caleb. Okay, so that's what the Ada is, and this is where we learn the need that 10 constitutes an Ada. Okay, and what are the things that we're listing over here that must be done in a minyan? So one of the things is poisin al shma. So lots of different parashim on here. Rashi explains that this is if you have a minyan that comes late to shul. In other words, you have 9 people, and the first people didn't wait until for the minyan to come before they said Kriya Shema, and so the 10th person walks in, and they've already basically davened, and now a 10th person walks in and wants to say kedusha. He wants to say Amidah with the kedusha. So again, he needs the minyan to be there. It's confusing because I don't know why they would say it like that, rather than just saying, you need a minyan for Chazaras Hashatz and Kedusha.
We've had that several. I mean, I remember where I used to live. I haven't really seen it here or been on a tiol, and someone comes late and hasn't gotten into the minyan,
Yeah.
And he says, listen, I'd like to say daven, but I need to say kedusha. So can 10 people stay around, and 9 people stay around?
And they do a heicha kedusha basically. Yeah. That's basically what I think. That's my understanding of what Rashi is saying. Is the guy comes in late and says a heicha kedusha and then carries on with his amidah.
Yeah. I have a question about. It says that the just forgot it. I can't believe it. The spies. They were called what? The spies were Ragam. It says that an evil. This was an evil minion. It was an evil group of people.
Yes.
Why would we use what the Torah describes as an evil group as a minion instead of one who are?
The word Ada is not pejorative. Ada by itself is Kol Ada. We see it used in many positive connotations as well. It's just that the spies were an Ada that was Ra. But if you want to know what the definition is, you can see this. They're defined as an Ada, and there are only 10 of them. And
okay.
That's
where I was heading, though. What I was thinking.
Yeah, you don't want to be associated with the minion of with that kind of a minion. You're right. But that's the technical knowledge of the term. For example, there's some words that are typically used with in a negative way. Vayashkef, for example, when Hashem looks on Sdom and Amorah, or Vayashkef al Mitzrayim, when Hashem looks down the Mitzrayim in the middle of the Yam Suf, and there's trouble coming.
Right.
Okay, that's when you see Vayashkef Hashem, right? You just hear trouble brewing, and yet in the middle of Parashas Kitavo, when you're asking for the Vidoi Masros, when you're asking Hashem to bless the people, you say Hashki Ifa. Hashki Ifa. We ask Hashem to be mashkif from Min Hashemayim, to look at us, and you think, well, that's a bold word to use when you're asking Hashem to check us out and see how good we are. There's
another word.
Nonetheless, that's the phrasing of the Vidui Masters.
There's another word I can't think of it now. If I was looking in a Siddur or Chumash, I would see it. I would know it right away. It just went out of my head like the Meragla went out. There's a word that when the pasuk starts, when it starts with this word, or in the Chumash it starts with that, something's coming. Right. Something's coming, and it's not going to be so good. So you better,
Yeah, that's right. Typically is a foreboding.
Right. Okay.
Right.
So if my kids would do something wrong, would I start off with Vayehi? I want to talk to you about something.
Maybe that's what you say, Oi Vayehi,
Oi Vayehi. Your kids will get it more than my kids, but they know. Okay. All right. So
then there are other explanations of what Porsin al Shma means porous means chotzeh. It means that you're kind of cutting in half, and this is so that's about the kedusha. There's another parish of it that it's that porosin is lashon mevarchin, that it's a lashon of blessing, and this is what Rambam says about it, that you can't have one person saying the brachas of Kriya Shema, and you can only have the shats making the brachas of Kriya Shema and saying Shema Yisrael without with people saying Amen. Wait, why couldn't you? And everyone listens and says Amen afterwards. The Rambam says that you need a minyan for that, even for the brachas of Kriya Shema before Shemona Esrei. For somebody to be standing in front of the tzibur and leading them like that. So you need a minyan for that, apparently, according to his interpretation. Anyway, so that's the rest are fairly straightforward. So the porcelain al shema is a little bit hazy what exactly we're referring to. Ovrin lifnei ateva, well, having a shaliach tzibur, davening on behalf of the community, that also needs a minyan. The Kohanim need to have a minyan to duchen, and Korin b'Torah, and a public Torah reading needs a minyan. And Maftir b'Navi, and the Maftir and Haftarah also needs a minyan. And Osin Mamad u'Moshav. Mamad u'Moshav is referring to a funeral. So when they're carrying, there's a certain practice that they used to have with the mace, when they would sit down 7 times to bewail the mace, and they would say get up and go down, and this is called the Mamad u'Moshav. You need a minyan for that. And
we do that when we're taking the mace from the
we're saying Tehillim and things like that.
Right. Was it 7 times?
No, that's not Mamad u'Moshav. We don't have that practice anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. So the brachas in benching, when we add in the brachas for is that for no, the birkas avelim is when we're coming home from the funeral, and they're standing together in the and making a shura. I think you need a minyan for the shura. Tanchumei avelim. Sorry, the next one, Tanchumei avelim, is the shura. That needs a minyan. Birkas chasanim, that's the sheva brachas.
Right.
Right. So making sheva brachas also requires a minyan. Okay. And when you're benching after the meal, if you're making a zimun, if you want to say Baruch Elokeinu, you need to have a minyan for that. But karkaos, now when it comes to evaluating lands, so karkaos, we've seen karkaos talking. We've spoken about that in Arachin, and you want to redeem the field. For example, if you are you makdish the field, and now you want to do a pidyon on it. Now you need a kohen has to come and do the assessment, and you need 10 people, including the kohen. Okay? Tishav a kohen, v'adam kayotze behen, and the same thing goes for a person. If somebody says not the erech, but demei ploni alai, he wants to make he's got a good friend or his wife or his child, and he says, I just feel I guess somebody might do this if they were saved from a close accident or something like that, and he wants to say thank you to Hashem. He wants to give the value of his son or himself or whatever to the mikdash, and then you need a kohen to come and assess, okay, how much he has to pay.
They're not mentioning over here, unless I'm wrong, for bris milah or for opinion of ben about having a minyan.
You don't need one.
You don't need one for bris milah?
No? You're going to hold up a bris milah if you don't have a minyan?
That's true.
For Pidyon Ben, same thing. It just needs the participants. You need the mohel and the baby, basically. That's all that you need for a bris milah. And for the Pidyon Ben, you need the father and the kohen and the baby.
Right. Okay. All right.
Okay. So when somebody is making a Torah reading, Again, they used like they didn't used to have these chumashim with the helpful things of where to break the reading always in history. And in fact, it wasn't always a universal custom to read the Torah in a yearly cycle. There was actually also a custom in many places where they did it on a 3-yearly cycle. So, they
I
would.
think some people I think some congregations still do that, don't they? Somewhere. I think
Orthodox ones.
Not Orthodox ones, no, but I think there is
Yeah. So they also had a lot of flexibility, where they were going to break, and you're not no oleh should read less than 3 psukim. Lo yikra lem turgeman yoseh mi pasuk echad. Now, this is a practice that we don't have anymore, but the Taimanim still do. They have tarjum. They have usually it's a kid who stands by the side of the Torah, and after every pasuk, he reads out Onkelos.
Oh.
He reads out the Onkelos translation.
Aramaic. It's in Aramaic.
Yeah, in Aramaic, exactly. So the Mishnah tells us that if you're going to have a Turgaman, then you have to do one pasuk from the Torah, one pasuk from the Turgaman, because the Turgaman basically he's explaining to the Kehillah who don't necessarily understand Lashon HaKodesh in their language what we've just read. And when it's in the Torah, we're very makpid that he's not going to get confused, and we have to do it one pasuk by one pasuk so that he is very clear as to exactly what he has to translate, and it doesn't forget anything or get confused. Okay.
So there's no fast. I'm sorry. There's no fast Torah reading in that.
Oh no. No, it is excruciatingly slow. Have you ever been to a Taimani?
No, never.
I went once. A friend of mine is a Taimani, and it is her son's bar mitzvah. I've never been so lost in a davening. It's like a totally different minhag. We barely follow it. Aside from the fact that they also, the Havara Taimani is very different and difficult to follow, and the Baal Kriya was it sounded like a strangled goose.
I might have been into a time because I went one time. We were staying at a hotel and we went to there was we're next to the Great Synagogue, and I needed to daven Marav, so I went in and I just saw the minions. I went in, I davened, and I listened to them. I said, wait a second, I don't know what's going on. I had to say Kaddish. So the man next to me, I heard that he spoke English. So I said, let's do me a favor. I've never been in this kind of minion. Just tell me when to say Kaddish. Just nod to me, shake my hand, do something. And and the Kaddish was different anyway, but I got through it. I have no idea, but and I know there's another practice also that some I don't know who doesn't make the Farim do it, that they don't recite the Haftorah. People say the Haftorah themselves.
I don't know. I didn't see that.
There was
anyway.
Yeah. Anyway.
So anyway, we learned that for the reading from the Torah, the Tarjum comes every pasuk. The Navi Shlosha, but when you're reading from the Haftarah and they're doing Tarjum for the Navi, they can do it 3 psukim at a time, because there it's not as big a deal if he forgets a bit of the Indian or whatever. We're not as makpid as in Navi as we are in Chumash.
Do they have that translated also for the Haftarah when they do it?
I do not recall actually. Hayo shloshtan shalosh parshios. So shloshtan, if the 3 psukim are 3 parshios, and each pasuk is a parsha by itself. So that is if it's we're talking about in the Navi. So if you're reading a section in Navi where each pasuk is like a different paragraph, then we do want the Targuman to stop in between, so that's because a break in the text does indicate a break in Inyan, and you don't want to slur those together, run them together. Medalgin b'Navi b'ein medalgin b'Torah. You're allowed to skip in the Navi. In other words, you can jump from one part of the reading to another, which we do in several haftarahs. I know my haftarah for Yisrael involves skipping a fair bit until you get to the end. So so we do allow skipping in the Navi from pasuk to leaving out a section.
The purpose of that is for just getting to the end.
Because you want to get certain inyanim into the haftarah without being matriach the tzibur to listen to everything in between. Also, the haftarah for Shabbos Shuvah also skips all over the place. In fact, it's skipping all over Treyasar. It's skipping between different books within Treyasar, which is basically just considered one book. Ad kama hu medaleg ad kedei shelo yifsok turgeman. So how much are you allowed to skip? Well, just enough, says the Mishna, so that while they're turning rolling the scrolls, the Turgaman is busy explaining the previous psukim. So if it's a short enough gap that the Turgaman is busy talking to everyone, meanwhile they're busy rolling the scroll. They're very conscious about seconds when it comes to Tircha de Tzibura. Which is interesting because it's like that kind of tircha is basically just an awkward silence. That's all. Yeah. Oh, by the way, there is one place where we do skip between aliyahs in the Torah on fast days.
Oh, okay, right.
Vayechal Moshe is like 2 columns before the next. It's like 2 columns before Psolacha, but I mean by the time you've called up the next Ole, you already rolled there. That's
just for Tigr Sibor? That's the reason?
That's the only place I'm aware of where we actually jump Psukim in the Torah reading. But it's not, you're not doing it in the middle of a reading. It's in between Olim. But we're saying that in one haftarah, while you're busy reading the haftarah, you can skip psukim. Okay, back to the beginning of Megillah. Aleph Aleph.
Here we are. Sorry, put the wrong page. There's no tissue there, that's why. Oh. Megillah may be read on the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th day of Adar, but never earlier than later. Cities that were surrounded by walls at the time of Yeshua ben Nun read on the 15th. Villages and large towns read on the 14th. However, villages sometimes advanced their reading to the day of entry into the towns. How is this possible? If the 14th of Adar fell on Monday, villages and large towns read on that very day, and walled cities read on the next day. If it fell on Tuesday or Wednesday, villages advanced their reading to the day of entry. Large towns read on that very day, and walled cities read on the next day. If it fell on a Thursday, villages and large towns read on that very day, and walled cities read on the next day. If it fell on the eve of Shabbos, villages advanced their reading to the day of entry, and large towns and walled cities read on that very day. If it fell on Shabbos, villages and large towns advanced their reading to the day of entry. So that means in those last 2 sentences, it means they would advance it to Monday. If it fell on Shabbos or the day before, they would advance it to
they would advance
Monday.
It to the Thursday.
No, they wanted to say if it fell on the eve of Shabbos, they would large cities and walled cities read on that very day. No, wait. If it fell on the eve of Shabbos, villages advanced their reading to the day of entry, which would be Monday.
Thursday. That's Thursday.
If it fell on the eve of Shabbos, that would be Erev Shabbos. So wouldn't the next day not be third? Wouldn't they? It's
Not
Monday.
the next day. They're advancing it. They're bringing it earlier. You bring the Megillah reading to an earlier date. So that's why we're saying that. They
go backwards. They go backwards. Yeah. Advance doesn't mean
advanced reading, meaning it comes earlier.
Yeah, they should have said they go back to the day of entry. The advance on big Monday. Okay, so the same thing over here. It fell on Shabbos. They advanced to the day of entry. Walled cities read the next day. If it fell on Shabbos, villages advanced the reading to the day of entry. Large towns read on the very day. Walled cities read the next day. What is considered a large town? Any in which there are 10 unoccupied men. If there are fewer than that, it is considered a village. As regards these times, they said to advance rather than postpone. But the time of the wood offering of the Kohanim, the fast of Tisha B'Av, the festival of sacrifice, and the assembly are postponed and not advanced. Even though the sages said to advance the reading rather than postpone, eulogies, fast, and gifts to the poor are permitted on the earlier dates. Then Yehuda says, when may the reading be advanced? In a place where they enter the towns on Monday and Thursday. However, in a place where they do not enter the towns on Monday and Thursday, they may read it only on the proper date.
Okay.
That's
Beit
it.
Gimel Beis.
Issue over here. Okay, we're on to Beta. Okay, we have Gimel Beit. If traps for game, fowl, and fish were set before Yom Tov, one may not take from them on Yom Tov, unless he knows that they were caught before Yom Tov. It once happened that a certain non-Jew brought a fish to Rabbi Gamliel, and he said, they are permitted, but I do not wish to accept from him. A dangerously ill animal might not be slaughtered unless there is time enough in the day to eat of it and olives bulk roasted. Rabbi Akiva said, even an olive's bulk raw from the slaughtering part. If he slaughtered it in the field, he may not bring it on a staff or a rod, but he brings it in his hand part by part. And if a firstling fell into a pit, Rabbi Yehuda says an expert goes down and sees. If it has a blemish, he may bring it up and slaughter it. But if not, he may not slaughter it. And Rabbi Shimon says, if its blemish was not perceived on the previous day, it is not considered prepared. Okay. Okay, Pesachim. Okay, Aleph Zion. Reb Meir said, from the words we infer that we may burn uncontaminated truma, which is chametz, which contaminated truma on Pesach. Reb Yossi said to him, this is not analogous, even if Reb Eliezer and Reb Yeshua concur that each is burned separately. Concerning what do they differ? Concerning suspended and contaminated truma, where Reb Eliezer says that each must be burned separately, but Reb Yeshua says they must both be burned together.
They may both be burned together.
Maybe burned together.
Yeah.
As long as it is permitted to eat chametz, one may feed it to livestock, beasts, and birds, and sell it to a Gentile, and deriving benefit from it is permitted. When its period has passed, deriving benefit from it is forbidden, and one may not fire an oven or rain with it. Rabbi Yehuda says there is no removal of chametz except by burning, and the Chachamim say it may also crumble. He may also crumble it and throw it into the wind or cast it into the sea. Okay.
One more. Chametz shall not be.
Chametz of a Gentile over which Pesach has passed, deriving benefit from it is permitted, but chametz of a Jew deriving benefit from it is forbidden, since it is said, nor shall leaven be seen with you.
Right. Elayim Aleph Zion.
Aleph Hey. No, yeah, Aleph Hey.
Zion.
Aleph Zion?
Yeah.
Oh, it's checked on the bottom. I put the thing and checked on the bottom. One may not bring a tree onto a tree, vegetable onto vegetable, nor a tree onto a vegetable, or a vegetable onto a tree. Rabbi Yehuda permits vegetable onto a tree. One may not plant vegetables in the stump of a sycamore tree. One may not graft rue into white cassia because it is a vegetable onto a tree. And one might not plant a fig tree shoot into a citrus in oil to cool it. One may not insert a vine shoot into a melon in order to water it, because it is a tree onto a vegetable. One may not put gourd seed into a mallow in order to preserve it, because it is a vegetable into a vegetable. If one buries turnips or horseradish under a vine, if some of the leaves are uncovered, he need not be concerned about kalayim or about the sevias or about maestros, or they may be extracted on Shabbos. If one sows wheat and barley together, that is kalayim. Rabbi Yehuda says it is not kalayim unless there are 2 wheat grains and 1 barley grain, or 1 wheat grain and 2 barley grains, or a wheat grain and a barley grain and a spelt grain. Okay. Okay. Yud-Beit Ches. An olar and a pen and a plummet and weights and kurim and a ruler and a writing tablet are tame, and all unfinished wood utensils are tame, except for those made from eskara. Eskara. Is that wrong? That's escaroa. Escaroa. I would just stay with the Hebrew, I'd be okay. But Yehuda says a utensil made of an olive branch is tahor until its sap is removed. A sword, a knife, a dagger, a spear, a hand sickle, a reaping sickle, a trimming scissors, and the scissors of barbers that were separated are tame. Rabbi Yossi says the part closer to the handle is tame, but the part closer to the tip is tahor. Regarding shears that were separated into two parts, Rabbi Yehuda rules them tame, but the Chachamim rule them tahor. Akala gryphon, whose spoon was removed is tame on account of its teeth. If its teeth were removed, it is tame on account of its spoon. An applicator whose spoon was removed is tame on account of its tip, and if the tip was removed, it is tame on account of its spoon. A stylus whose nib was removed is tame on account of the eraser, and if the eraser was removed, it is tame on account of the nib. Zoma yistera, whose spoon was removed, is tame on account of the fork, and if the fork was removed, it is tame on account of its spoon. And the same applies to the teeth of a tiller. The measure for all of these is as much as is necessary in order to do their work.
All right. Sanhedrin,
Base. The king may not judge nor be judged. He may not testify nor be testified against. He does not perform kalitza, nor is kalitza performed with his wife, and he does not perform yibum, nor is yibum performed with his wife. Rabbi Yehuda says if he wishes to perform kalitza or yibum, he is remembered favorably. They said to him, they do not listen to him, and no one may marry his widow. Rabbi Yehuda says a king may marry the widow of another king, as we find that David married the widow of Shaul, as it is stated, and I gave you the house of your master and the wives of your master in your bosom. If someone close to him dies, he does not leave the entrance of his palace. Rabbi Yehuda says if he wishes to go out after the beer has been, maybe he may go out. For so we find concerning David that he went out after the beer of Abna, and it stated, and King David followed the beer. They said to him, this was only to placate the people. When they feed him the morning's meal, all the people sit on the floor, and he sits on a dogesh. He may wage a discretionary war with the consent of the court of 71. He may break through to make a path for himself, and no one may impede him. The king's path has no limits. All the people plunder and place it before him, and he takes the first portion. Let him not take for himself many wives, only 18. Rabbi Yehuda says he may take for himself even as many as long as they do not turn his heart. Rabbi Shimon says even one, if she turns his heart, he may not marry her. If so, why does he say, let him not take for himself many wives? Even if they are like Abigail, let him not accumulate for himself many horses, only enough for his chariots. And silver and gold, let him not accumulate for himself greatly, only enough to pay his troops. He writes a Torah scroll for himself. When he goes out to war, he takes it with him. And when he returns, he brings it back with him. When he sits in judgment, it is with him. When he reclines, it is before him, as it is stated, and he shall be with him, it shall be with him, and he shall read it in all the days of his life.
Okay, come. I'm just like thinking, it's a really heavy imposition on the king that he should only marry 18 wives. So,
I know. Why would someone do that?
I can't wrap my mind around it. Like,
well, that was when I was in Dubai, and they were telling me people have 4, 5, 6, 7 wives. It's okay.
I guess they don't have the kind of relationship with their wives that that we Westerners have. It's like we have a very different kind of approach, a very different kind of approach to what marriage is.
We read about it all the time. The people are married, then all of a sudden this one had a one-time affair with this other person. Like they can't take that. It's I'm not saying they should, but there's a this guy has 18 wives, and this. Yeah. All right.